Good evening, everyone. It being 7 o'clock, I will call the meeting to order. And the first order of business, I will turn over to the town clerk for the swearing in of Councillor-elect Michaud.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. First, on behalf of the town of Sackville, I would like to thank all those who participated in the recent municipal by-election and congratulate Sean Michaud, who was elected by our citizens. We will now move into our swearing-in ceremony portion of the meeting, and I would invite Sean Michaud to join me up front for the swearing of the oath of office.
I, Robert Sean Michaud of Sackville, New Brunswick, swear that I am, to the best of my knowledge and belief, qualified for the office of Councillor for the local government of Sackville, to which office I have been elected, and that I accept the office for which I am elected, and will diligently, faithfully, and impartially discharge to the best of my ability the duties of the office as may be imposed upon me by law, so help me God.
Ask you to sign. I'll witness your signature. I'll ask you to sign the disclosure of interest.
Right here.
Yes. Thank you. I would now like to invite you to take your seat on council and join the rest of our members.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations again.
Thank you.
I'd like to call for a motion to approve the agenda. Councillor O'Neill, second Councillor Tower. Are there any additions to the agenda?
Sorry, I'm just readjusting myself. Yes, Your Worship, I'd like to add under new business, if I could, the introduction of the Parish of Sackville LSD Advisory Committee.
Okay, thank you. You vote on the amended agenda then. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Okay, we'll start it with the question period. Does anyone have any questions of council?
I'm just going to ask now, the council's been talking about using a quarry for a park. I understand there's about 80 or 90 feet of water in that quarry. Mount Allison owns it. Why is the town taking the highest point in town for a holding pond? And if they are going to do it, how many lifeguards are they going to have there to protect the children and whatever that are going into that park?
Well, I think first of all, it's a natural holding pond as it is. And when there's not any rain or heavy rain to be backed up there, it'll look just like it does now. And then when it's, if we do get a very heavy rain like that 100-millimeter rain we got a year or so ago, then it will fill up. It'll be kind of a dam there. It'll fill it up and then it slowly bleed it out into all the business down here.
My question was, who's going to be responsible? Right now, Mount Allison is responsible for that. They put a fence around it, and a lot of that fence has been knocked down, and they never replaced it. But if the town is going to take it over, like they have a lot of other pieces of land, the town is going to be responsible if somebody drowns in there. There's been 2 people drowned in there that I know of in my lifetime. So,
Well, we would bear responsibility for that area if we bought it, for sure.
so it's gonna be more expensive to the taxpayers.
That would remain to be seen.
Yes, I just have one question for the councilors. Like, I've been coming to council fairly regularly, and to me, the councilors aren't given very much information from the staff as to what is coming out in for tenders, or like the one that we're just doing down here on Lawrence Street now. And I just wanted to do a little poll to see how many of the councilors were given any, like any input on it until after the contract was sent out to tender. And this was my question, was to.
Well, we all got the same, and
No, but I meant from the town. From the town, like in ahead of time,
yeah, from the contract was through the town to us, through staff to us, yes.
after it was put out to tender?
No, before.
Oh, it was?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good, no, that's, because I was under the impression that nobody had seen anything until it was going to tender.
No, several of us may have had questions about one thing or another, but we'd all seen several details of it. Right? Anyone else? Okay, there being no more questions, we'll ask for any disclosures of interest. There being none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the minutes of the council meeting of December 10th, 2018. Moved by Councillor Evans, seconded by Councillor Black. Councillor Evans?
I would like to speak to these minutes. I thought that the last meeting of last year was particularly productive and full of good news, and I would just want to take this opportunity to point that out before we just acknowledge the minutes. We were in really good financial shape, and at the beginning of last year, I was a little concerned that we might not be. So I found that a particularly positive meeting, and I'm going into 2019 feeling particularly hopeful.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion's carried. Is there any business arising from the minutes? There being none, we'll move on to the reports of Southeast Region. I attended the meeting of the Southeast Region on behalf of the mayor, the last one which I already reported on, and there was no meeting in December. So the next meeting will be January 29th. No, Ms. Pickford?
Thank you. In the month of December, there were 2 permits that were issued for the town of Sackville. This brought our year-to-date total for 2018 at 67 permits and a total construction value of $23.7 million. This is up both in number and value from 2017, which finished off with 50 permits and a construction value of $12.5 million. There was a lack of development requests that happened in the month of December, so the Planning Review and Adjustment Committee didn't hold a meeting as a result. And other projects that were worked on over the month were various consultations, as often happens with both town staff and the public, as well as processing of the 2017 LiDAR data was undertaken. And this will be used in the future to update future floodplain scenario mapping, or to even just provide a more detailed and newer information than what our current mapping is based on. So we've just kind of got underway on the processing part of it, and then from there the scenarios will be run. And that will be reported back to council at a later date with any results that are found. And if there's anything further.
Any questions? Councillor Evans?
Thank you for that. In light of the discussion that we had when we approved the rezoning for the ambulance and the recent article in the Trib, I'm pleased to see that this is happening the same way the changes to the map or the proposed changes, the ones we adopted last time, were done. So this means, if I understand it correctly, staff is looking at the new information, and they will come with a recommendation at some point, probably to adopt a new map. Is that a safe assumption about the process?
Fairly safe. Essentially, what we'll do is we'll process the data, run the scenarios, and then come back and give an overview as to whether there was any changes that occurred or whether it remains the same. This is, like I say, more detailed and up-to-date information, so I would be surprised if there wasn't any changes. And from there, all the scenarios would be presented to council, and council could look at as to whether they want to change the current flood mapping in the town or remain as is.
Thank you. Are there any more questions? No? Okay, we'll move on to, sorry? Sorry.
Lori, when will we be receiving the information that you just talked about?
There is no actual timeline right yet, just because it's a matter of how long it's going to take to process the data and run the scenarios and that sort of thing. So I wouldn't anticipate a long, drawn-out process, but certainly I have to rely mostly on the GIS professionals in the office for how long it takes them to do it. So I will say that it won't be next month, because the data will take longer than that to process and then to review. So there will be some extra time that's going to be needed to overview and look at the two in comparison. So
2 or 3 months?
I would hopefully aim for that, but again, I never like to commit to too much, just in case other things come in that would take up a priority over reviewing data.
Okay, we'll move on to the reports. And the first is the mayor's report. Apologize on behalf of the mayor. He had to be in Vancouver this week on some pressing family business. But for January 2019, he reports that he was interviewed by the Tribune on the by-election results, the Christmas Memories contribution, and the Ambulance New Brunswick letters, and the year in review. And he did a Times transcript interview on the proposed First Nation reserve out on Coles Island. Events, a variety of Christmas events around town, as you might imagine, and the information meeting on the flooding. Other activities, he went to a COA meeting on economic and business values and education reform. We've redone, as you'll find out later, liaison roles. Had one-on-one meetings with most councillors, replied to a letter from Mr. Lund about the property we've been given out here, and replied to Sabine Dietz about concerns about the ambulance in the floodplains. He also had meetings, under miscellaneous, meetings with Honourable Marilyn Trenum, Pat Esterbrooks, Carl Ward, Ada Finney on a wide range of topics, age-friendly steps, EMO, clarity, economic development, community development, and education reform. And that's the mayor's report for the month. If there are any questions, I probably can't answer them, but. Councillor Finney?
Yes, Deputy Mayor or Acting Mayor. Can you tell me, it says one-on-one meetings with most councillors. That's obviously he's had some. Is he going to have more with the others, which will include all councillors, or is it just select few that he's going to meet?
I have no idea.
Thank you.
He didn't meet with me either, so.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to CAO's report. Mr. Hennerhan?
Thank you, Worship. CAO's report's on page 13 in the package, and just make a couple of highlights in terms of the past month, starting with acknowledging the efforts of the Public Works Department during their usual winter season, where you get a large variety of changing weather patterns, and I think the staff were challenged on a number of events during some pretty unpleasant work periods. I just want to publicly thank them and for their work on winter control on the streets and sidewalks throughout the community. Also, we had a fairly significant water break this past month too, which is a most inconvenient time, and Staff did a very good job on dealing with that as quickly as possible, and a special thank you to the residents as well that were affected for their patience and understanding during that tough time as well. We also had, starting out the new year, an information session for our residents on the startup of Lawrence Street. It was well attended, and a lot of good information came out at that time, and the staff will be working hard and keeping the public informed as that project progresses. And finally, I just want to comment on thanking the chief, fire chief, for facilitating tabletop session on our EMO training, which we do periodically, and so we had all managers in attendance, and that was just prior to Christmas, and just want to thank the chief for the scenario that he had facilitated for us. So with that, your worship, that's my report, and certainly answer any questions council may have.
Councillor Evans?
Yeah, not a question, but a comment. Several people after the water main break in Middle Sackville, or the Middle Sackville people affected, contacted me and said, you have to tell staff what a wonderful job they did communicating with us. They got all kinds of communication, or they got the same communication, all kinds of different ways. And several people heard other people say, oh yeah, I got it on Sentinel, it was really great. And people are still saying, what's that? So I want to take this opportunity to pass on the commendation to staff, but also to encourage people to sign up for Sentinel. You can do it on the Town of Sackville website, and you can be notified in the manner of your choice about all kinds of things. So it's a great thing to do. And I'll get off my soapbox.
Thank you. Councillor Tower?
Thank you, Your Worship. That was one of the two things I was going to say. The other was that when we had a storm event lately, there was one comment made on social media about what does it take to get your road plowed. And I was very pleased to see about 48 to 50 responses saying, get off your soapbox, they're doing a fantastic job. If you don't think they are, compare us to Moncton, Amherst, and so on. So they were praising Public Works. Your crew did a fantastic job, and I want you to know that.
Thank you, Councillor Tower. Anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll now move on to Finance Administration. Councillor Tower.
Thank you, Your Worship. The bills and payrolls are on page 14 and 15, and I'll ask the treasurer to make comment first before I make the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Tower. The month of December, of course, it is always a larger month for the accounts payable report because we do our transfers between our accounts to balance them out, the interfunding between the operating accounts and the capital accounts. In doing so, of course, we have to write checks between the accounts. And for general government, it was extremely high because of $4 million worth of transfers. The majority of that went from general government to general capital. And a little explanation on that is that the expenses are paid out of general capital. We submit our infrastructure funding request. It comes into general operating, and then the expenses to offset that are transferred back through capital out of revenue. So at the end of the year, we then have to make the transfer of the cash in order to pay those bills and balance it out. So that represented about $4 million. $195,000 was for the reserve fund transfer. $347,000 was for the RCMP bill for the third quarter, which took us up to the end of September. As well, we had $500,000 in debenture payments, as well as power, waste, and other bills that happened in general government. In utility government, we had $111,000 that was transferred to our utility capital reserve fund, $300K, which was transfers between our interfund accounts. We had Veolia, $12,000 for debenture payments and power bills. General capital of the $953,000, $545,000 of that was for transfers between the interfunds. $305,000 was for Main Street and other projects in general capital, from the waterfowl park upgrades to the sports field house. Utility capital, the only voice there was for lift station work. The payroll report is on page 15, and you can see the overtime required in the month of December that was paid out, mostly relating to plowing, sanding, and salting the streets for the month.
Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I will now make the motion on the bills and payroll. I move that council accept the bills and payroll for the month of December 2018 as follows. General government, $5,334,105.23. General capital, $953,460.19. Utility government, $477,882.30. Utility capital, $8,501.95, and salaries of $200,406.27.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Evans, seconds. Question?
Question?
All those in favor? Opposed? Motion's carried.
Now I'll move on to the main report, and that information is on page 16 through 22. Financial statements are included to the end of December 2018 as of January 4, 2019. There remains a lot of December adjustment entries that are to be done early in the new year, as well as many invoices that will come in during January for the year 2018. As we progress through January and February, we will work towards the final numbers for the year of 2018. Small surpluses are projected in both general and utility at this time. Transfer of $190,000 into the General Capital Reserve Fund and $111,000 into the Utility Capital Reserve Fund were completed in December. This brings in our balance in our reserve funds as of December 31st, 2018. General Capital Reserve Fund, $822,384.93. General Operating Reserve, $99,379. Utility Capital Reserve Fund, $254,807.53. Acquiring Developing Parkland Fund is at $92.93. The 2019 budget process was completed for the general and utility budget on December 10th, and the forms have been submitted to the province for approval. These forms were returned and approval was given by the province on January 10th, 2019. The budget documents are available on our website. Motions were approved at the December council meeting approving the 2019 general capital, which will be comprised of capital out of revenue and a small amount of borrowing allocated, as well as borrowing authorization for utility capital. Our hearing with the Municipal Capital Borrowing Board will be February 11th, 2019. Water meter were read on January 2nd, 2019, and bills will go out mid-January for the period of September through to December. This billing will be revenue for our 2018 fiscal year and occurred into 2018 actuals. Funds were received from the FCM in the amount of $48,000 on December 11th, 2018 for our asset management plan and policies, and we would like to thank them for that funding. Funds were received for $33,681.75 in December from our insurance company relating to the sign accident in December 13, 2016. This is the total cost less deductible, which we will receive back if they collect from the third party. Dog tags for 2019 are now on sale at Town Hall. Proof of rabies vaccination must be presented at the time of registration. The bylaw and animal control information is on pages 23 and 24. So if there are any questions?
Councillor Michaud?
Yep. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. Just a couple of clarity ones, I guess, as I'm looking at looking at page 19 regards to the operation budget. I'm just wondering if there's some information available in regards to, I see revenue under police and revenue under Parks and Recreation. Didn't hit its projected budget, and I'm just kind of wondering if there's some information that would relate to those. And then also I see that under Public Works, we were actually on our expenditures, I believe we're slightly over budget by about $15,000. So I'm just kind of wondering if there's information available on those numbers.
Thank you, Councillor Michaud, and my apologies on the microphone. It hasn't been used for a few months, so I was not aware of anything. It may also be your computer a little close to the microphone, so maybe try and move that, might help as well. To answer your questions, you'll notice the reports on page 19 and 20. At the top of them, it is as of January 4th, 2019. As noted in the report, there are a lot of entries and adjustments that still have to remain. But to clarify the direct question you asked relating to police, there were two months worth of revenue that had yet to come in from the RCMP for their lease. That came in January and has yet to be accrued back for the revenue. Parks and facilities, as of January 4th, we had not billed out the revenue for the month of December ice rentals at that point in time. So again, those were billed out after January 4th. And on the expense side, the Public Works is showing a little bit over. At this point in time, I cannot confirm whether it will end the year overage or not. But essentially, we haven't done the inventory for the end of the year, and a number of adjusting entries there. As well, the police in expenditures show substantially under 72.7%. We have yet to get the October to December bill yet for the RCMP. So in the February council report, council package, we will have December again, and it will be as of the end of January. So those numbers will begin to get a little bit clearer as to where they will end the year. It still will not be at 100% as of the end of January. It will be the end of February, early March before the numbers, when the auditors come in, before the numbers become 100% concrete. But when we do our February report, you'll see a little bit better numbers at that point. And then the final numbers, when we have our March council meeting, should be ready to prepare at that point in time.
Are there any other questions? Okay. We'll then move on to public property and facilities. Councillor Tower? Oh, I skipped one?
I can see it jumped a bit.
I'm sorry. Tourism and Business Development, Councillor O'Neill.
The department completed their wayfinding signs, which were installed around the town. Work is beginning for the 2019 project, which will include new versions of the former chamber signs at both highway entrances. Also a new sign for the industrial park and other sign upgrades. Notification has been received that the municipal VIC program with the province of New Brunswick has enabled us to be listed, and they will be promoting our visitor center. The Craft Gallery and Robert Line Graphics, again, have renewed their contract with the town, which is for another 3 years. The Visitor Center display upgrades that received funding under the province's Environmental Trust Fund continues to be developed with a anticipated completion date in early March. The town's very pleased to welcome the store Hounds of Vintage to their new location on Bridge Street, which adds to recent increase in local retail businesses, which also have set up in our town, which includes Payless Liquidation and Hetty's Hair Care on Main Street, and Birchwood Holdings on the corner of Bridge and Main, which fills in a building there that has been empty for quite a long while. Planning has begun for many 2019 projects, including the promoting tourism for our town. I think that's all that there is for that one, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill.
Is there any questions I'll ask Ron Kelly Spurl? Any questions to be asked?
Are there any questions? No? Okay. We'll move on now to public property and facilities, and Councillor Tower.
Thank you, Your Worship. The information is on pages 27 through 29. For engineering and public works, the month of December was another busy month of winter controls, as we all know. Several snow events to deal with, plowing, salting, sanding, sidewalks. I will have one question because I was asked twice last week. When we do our cleanup downtown, what is the approximate cost of every time we do a cleanup?
I think when I had done it last time, it was about $10,000, give or take, depending on if we run all day. Like sometimes we do like a 4 hour, so from 3 in the morning, 3:30 till 7:30. But when we have major cleanups to do, we run pretty much all day. We're into the $10,000 range.
Thank you for that. I told the people that they should watch the council or come in to make it even better, and they would get the answer on that. So it goes from what they say is, well, it can't cost that much, to a realization of life. Public works staff, along with subcontractors, work throughout the month of December on the new Dufferin Street Sports Field utility shed to complete the majority of the work on this facility. And the staff will, of course, work at that to completion when they have time available. Due to the early winter conditions we experienced this year, a large amount of frost heave from the freezing and thawing and then constant freezing. The streets and the roads are starting to experience potholes, and the Public Works Department will utilize the hot patch machine in the months to come as weather permits to fill these potholes. Due to the extreme cold weather we have experienced in December, the Utility Department had to deal with a water main break on Charles in the month of December and another on Marsview Drive on January 4th. The Engineering Department continues to work with Crandall Engineering on Phase 2 of the Lawrence Street Reconstruction and Stormwater Mitigation Project. The short-term option for Phase 2, tender number 2018-17. Construction of a new stormwater retention pond and related works was presented and approved by council during the regular council meeting in December. The Phase 2 information session for that tender, construction of the new stormwater retention pond and related works was scheduled and did happen on January 7th in the council chambers. It was fairly well attended and lots of great information. Tandemar Veteran Memorial Civic Center. The month of December saw several high school and minor hockey games, as well as the men's gents league games. Skating club continued to practice a few times a week. January will see several TRHS, minor hockey, Mon-A, gents miles, the men's league games, as well as the skate club practicing for upcoming competitions. The TRHS Men's Alumni Game will be held on January 19th. This is a major fundraiser to support the Titans, so let's have everybody come out for that. The Civic Center is open during the operational hours, even in inclement weather, or during power outages for citizens to get warm and charged. If there's no power, of course, at the Civic Center, the warming aspect will be a little harder to deal with, and charging will not happen. Public municipal parks. The park staff, along with Public Works, will be maintaining the walking trail around the upper loop at Beach Hill Park this winter. The Outdoors Club have the grooming of the trails for the disc golf course, so golfers can continue to play throughout the winter. Cold weather. Beach Hill Park is also a great place to get out and go snowshoeing on the marked trails or get adventuresome and make your own trails. The programming department has snowshoes for loan out. Jackrabbit Youth Ski Program will be starting on January 13th and run from 1 till 3 p.m. on Sundays until after the March break, weather permitting. And that is my report, Your Worship. No motions.
Thank you, Councillor Tower. Are there any questions on the report? Councillor Evans?
Yeah, I just want to direct a question that I got from a citizen about the possibility of clearing some of the waterfowl park so that people can skate. They asked if this could be done. I had a vague recollection that we had done that in the past, but I can understand there would be issues, so I'm just going to take this opportunity to ask if staff could address that.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Yes, one time several years ago, we did clear off a section of the waterfowl park. Unfortunately, within weeks, the ice actually melted. Our weather is so unpredictable in our winters that we clear a piece and then it gets soft and it gets dangerous, to be honest with you. So we haven't done it for several years. It's a safety issue for sure.
Thank you. Councillor Butcher?
Thank you. I had a citizen ask about the snowshoes. The snowshoes that are available for rent, are they only adult snowshoes or do we have children's?
Excuse me. We only have adult snowshoes right now, 2 different sizes basically for female or male.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Okay, then we'll move on to recreation program and events. Councillor Evans or Butcher? Evans.
Okay. The ukulele, trailblazers, aquasize, seniors aerobics, pickleball are all getting started in January. Registration and other information can be found on our website, sackville.com/programs. Beginning in January, a drop-in Lego program at Bill Johnstone Park for preschoolers will be taking place on Wednesday mornings, beginning February 6th. Christmas activities were well attended and included the annual Christmas tree lighting ceremony, Sackville Strummers Ukulele Christmas Kitchen Party, a group with the longest name in the world, and the annual Christmas tree light bus tour. Sports recognition night will be Tuesday, January 22nd at 6 p.m. at the Civic Center. We encourage everyone to come and celebrate our local athletes. We are now accepting nominations for the 2019 class for the Sackville Arts Wall. Nomination forms can be found at sackville.com and are due May 10th. Sackville Winterfest schedule has been finalized and is now online. The event will take place February 21st to 24th, and this year's event will be the biggest and best yet. Now includes the Town Gown charity hockey game and the Firemen's Winter Carnival and several activities at the local library. A full March break schedule of events is being developed and will be released in February. And on June 1st, 2019, the department will be partnering with the Maritime Federation of Model Railroaders to offer a model railway show at the Civic Center. The show will be open to the public from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m., $5 for adults, children under 12 attending for free. Toot toot. A draft copy of the Recreation Master Plan has been circulated to the Planning Committee, Town Management, and liaison councillors for review and should be ready to be presented at the council meeting next month. And the library report. A total of 1,247 people visited the library in December. The library ran 14 adult programs with 93 participants, 6 young adult programs with 32 participants, and 21 children programs with 342 participants. Pretty impressive. And that's my report. It's Matt's report.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Are there any questions? Okay, there being none, we'll move on to public safety. And Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. Sackville Fire and Rescue responded to 15 calls for service in the month of December, which included 5 motor vehicle collisions, 5 commercial fire alarms, 3 requests for assistance from Ambulance New Brunswick, and 2 flue fires. The calls for service in 2018 were up 20 calls compared to 183 in 2017. The first meeting of the year for the department allows changes in the company officers. Nominations occurred, and the following lineup is as follows. Deputy Chief of Operations, Mike Green. Deputy Chief of Training, Walter Allen. Company number 1, Captain Don Fillmore. Company number 2, Captain James Estabrooks. Company 3, Captain Gordon Brooks. Aerial Company, Captain Eddie Cole, and Rescue Company, Captain David Sears. And of course, they all have lieutenants with them as well. As part of the emergency planning efforts, the management team held their EMO tabletop exercise, which our CAO alluded to a while ago. And just a reminder, again, of the Sentinel system, which keeps the residents up to date during significant emergency events. There is a town website that they can go on. However, if you don't have access to the computer, which I realize a lot of seniors in our town don't have, they can contact Kathy Best at the Public Works Department at 364-4960 for assistance, and she will see that you are put on that list. The chief reminds everyone to ensure that their civic number is visible from the road, and as always, he reminds residents of Sackville to make sure they have a basic emergency kit prepared to last at least 72 hours. RCMP, or Police Services, the overall calls for service in December were comparable to last year, slightly higher, with 98 complaints. There were 15 property crimes reported, which is consistent with last month. 2 commercial break-and-enters during the holidays were reported, and these are being investigated as part as a regional crime spree. There were many check stops conducted in the community, with only 1 impaired driver apprehended. There were also quite a few MAD check stops organized through the CRCPO. As part of a plan for increased visibility, there were 15-foot patrols and 11 member school visits. Major legislative changes were implemented in December. Members are educating themselves on the new forms and processes. The most notable change is the added authority for officers to demand roadside breath samples during any lawful vehicle stop. In the coming months, Sergeant Gagne will be starting discussions with various partners to exercise similar ARMS conducted in May, way back in 2014. There was also noted effort to detect speeding vehicles. 9 tickets were issued in December, and of note, there were only 7 collisions in December compared to 28 collisions reported in November. So I guess we must have learned we've been learning how to handle the snow and roads based on that. And that is the RCMP report. And our CPO's report shows that he had requests for service at Tannermar High School. There were 7 requests from them and 1 from Marshview Middle School. He continues to work within the community with MAD Canada. He has Cops for Kids, and also he is working on an RCMP auxiliary program in our area where they're presently looking to recruit new volunteers in the coming months. He works on a whole pile of committees: Crime Stoppers, Block Parent, Link Program, Youth and Adult Diversion Committee, Access to Mental Health, and so on. And as well as Mothers Against Drunk Driving. And he also notes that in the administrative end, active adult files, he has 2. Active youth files, he has 6. And there's also informal discussions with youth and parents and guardians, which he is working with 7 people there. 2 youth files for disturbing the peace, 1 youth file for theft, 2 youth files for threats, 1 youth file for illegal possession of cannabis, 1 adult file for trespassing on railroad property, and 1 adult file for property damage. That's my report, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councilor O'Neill. Are there any questions? Councilor Mitchell?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. That's okay. I'm not quite sure what's happening there, but that's fine. I'll speak up. So I want to refer back to the fire chief's report, something that's not noted in the report. The second week of December, there was a CN freight train that had mechanical issues, which ended up cutting off West Sackville, Crescent, Charles, etc. And I know it was for a fairly lengthy amount of time. Came to my attention because a coworker couldn't get across from West Sackville. And I think it was noted that one of the meetings that the mayor had was with Pat Estabrook, and she had spoken to me about it as well. I'm just wondering what type of efforts are being made to kind of address this on an EMO and to ensure that, I mean, that's, you know, we have a lot of we have a new business locating in the industrial park, a lot of residential area there, and you know, now granted the Ambulance New Brunswick facility will move, but still, even for them to access it or for fire services, and where we are responsible for providing fire service for the local service district. I'm just wondering what has transpired since then, if there's any work being conducted to address this.
Thank you, Councillor Michaud. As it relates to the incident in question in December, fire services became aware of it probably in the middle to the end of it. As it related to the incident, I believe it was between 20 and 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes in duration of time that was closed. Did reach out to one of my staff members who also is a member of CN on the track supervisory side of it, and indicated that the town of Sackville was in motion to be contacted as it related to the blockage. However, at that time, the rail cars and the engines it was an air issue on the CN cars as well as the engines. So the air continued to build back up within the engines, and the engines did manage to take the rail cars off of the tracks, so it did not block all 3 or 4 entrance exit points within that corridor, as well as in the 935-106 interchange. Once I became aware of it, I did proceed down to the 935-106, but it was already cleared at that time, and headed out into the industrial park. But again, it had already made its way, clearing those paths at that said time. What's been done since, I know that myself, our town engineer, Dwayne Acton, and Jamie Burke have been in contact with CN, trying to make some type of arrangements so we get notifications when something like this happens. So nothing to date, but there has been some movement through Jamie Burke's office as it relates to communications and making sure we are put in contact with the correct person in the event of these incidents moving forward. So there are steps being taken at this time to ensure that if it does happen again, there's a quicker response from CN, letting the municipality of Sackville as well as emergency services know.
Thank you. Are there any more questions?
Regards to, and just to that, I appreciate the response, and I'm hoping with that there'll be some opportunity to kind of look at if this happens again, and the trains can't be moved within a certain amount of time. You know, I think the residents would feel more comfortable knowing what's the avenue. So if I need emergency assistance, how is that going to be provided, and or is it a matter of CN being responsible moving that train sooner than later, so at least you can get across one crossing? So
You are correct, and those dynamics are being looked into at the present time by the engineer, Jamie Burke, and myself.
Yeah. Phil?
I guess just to reemphasize, I think what I heard the chief say, and I know at the time when we followed up on it, CN was in the process of separating the cars at the intersections during the time, and it was a 20-minute period. So they recognized the significance of the situation as well, and we're reinforcing that in our follow-up with the personnel of CN as well, too.
I just have one other thing, and I guess it's regarding the RCMP report. At any point in time, they should feel free to come out between Crosman Road and Woodlawn Road, and probably in a matter of 4 hours, they could probably double those number of tickets.
Okay, if there are no more questions, we'll move on to policy bylaw. Councillor Black.
Thank you. The policy and bylaw report can be found on page 36 of the package. We did not meet in the month of December, but an update was provided. An update was provided with regards to bylaw number 264, a bylaw relating to the establishment of a special business improvement area levy in the town of Sackville, and that passed third and final reading at our December council meeting. A motion was passed at the regular council meeting of December 10th, 2018 to reschedule our May 2019 regular council meeting from May 13th, to May 14th to accommodate the Mount Allison University convocation. Staff continue to review bylaw number 251, a bylaw respecting the procedure and organization of council, amending references to the Municipalities Act, as well as housekeeping items. During the December 10th, 2018 by-election, Sean Michaud won the seat as councillor for the town of Sackville, and he was sworn in tonight, obviously. The clerk's office completed several binders containing pertinent information and documents to be placed in the councillor's office for their information, as well as easy access. And the signboard outside of Town Hall will be updated with the meeting dates for our special meeting of council and our regular council meetings for 2019. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you, Councillor Black. Are there any questions? Councillor Evans.
Thank you for that, and I'm pleased that you're reviewing bylaw number 251, our procedures bylaw. Are you in a position to tell me if you have looked at or will be looking at the possibility of electronic participation at council meetings?
I know it's been brought up a couple of times by yourself. We haven't discussed that as of yet, but it's something that we'll look at for sure.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Oh, thank you. I'll move on to personnel and Councillor Black.
Thank you again. The personnel report is found on page 37. A council liaison meeting was held on January 8th, 2019. During the pay periods of December, there were 37 permanent employees and 2 temporary employees. The grievance on call-out provisions has been referred to arbitration, and that remains outstanding. The town recently received a letter of resignation from our Assistant Town Clerk, Stacy Hicks, effective January 18th, 2019. Stacy has been with the town approximately 6 years and has been a valuable employee throughout her service with the town. Her expertise and pleasant personality will certainly be missed. We wish Stacy well in her new endeavors. And I have a motion as well.
Okay. Are there any questions? Are there any questions of Councillor Black? Okay, go ahead.
I move that council appoint Elizabeth Hartling as acting assistant clerk for an interim period beginning immediately and ending on April 26th, 2019.
A second by Councillor Tower. Question? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Councillor Finney opposes. Motion is carried. And I think I would, on behalf of, I'm sure everybody up here, I would like to echo the sentiments. We're sorry to see Stacy leaving, and she will be missed. Final report is Corporate Affairs and Strategic Development. Councillor Butcher.
Thank you. Corporate Affairs and Strategic Development Liaison Group met last on November 21st. We didn't meet in December, and the next meeting is scheduled for January 23rd. Lionsgate Consulting and 4L Strategies Consulting are continuing to work on the town's new business development strategy. Since the consultants provided a public update on December the 3rd at the special council meeting, they continue to work on the current situation report, closed the survey for the local business community, and are now analyzing the results. And they are also finalizing the first draft of the strategy. So the consultants are expecting to present the draft strategy at the February 4th special council meeting. Staff were busy on the weekend of January 4th, as was mentioned earlier, assisting Public Works Department with the necessary communications pertaining to the major water main break at the corner of Marshview and Main, along with a precautionary boil water advisory that was issued because of the break. Updates were provided on the website, Facebook, Twitter accounts, and Public Works staff delivered notices to each household in person as well. In addition, staff utilized the Sentinel Emergency Alert System, and that targets specifically the households that were directly impacted by the break. So I know it's been mentioned a couple of times already tonight, but I think it's always good to mention it again. If you are not signed up for Sentinel, you can do that by visiting sackville.com, or if you're not comfortable doing that, if you need technical assistance, you can call the Public Works Department and they will help you set that up. So I would strongly advise all of our citizens to do that. Staff continued to assist our engineering consultants, Crandall Engineering, with Lawrence Street Phase 2. The public information meeting was held on January 7th and it was well attended. Construction is now underway and there's a mobile office that's been set up on Charles Street near the service road. And staff will be providing regular project updates as the project moves through our monthly newsletter, website, and social media channels, as well as the local radio stations and the newspapers as needed. And this one excites me. Not that the rest of it wasn't exciting either. Following a presentation by several Marshview Middle School students on the impacts of single-use plastics during the December 3rd meeting, the council meeting, staff has reached out to the school and offered to arrange a bus trip to the Eco 360 facility. And some students have had an opportunity to visit the facility, but many have not. So this will allow other students to see firsthand how our solid waste is managed. Staff will also be evaluating our own procurement procedures as it relates to single-use plastics. Lastly, staff are following up with the Eco 360 and the tri-communities of Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, who are currently evaluating the results of a public survey on the topic that was completed before the holidays and are now evaluating further options to prohibit plastic bags. And I'd just like to say that we have some pretty amazing kids in our community, and they're gonna change the world. So that's my report, and I have no motions.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Are there any questions? Councillor Evans?
Yeah, two things. I'd like to echo that. I was really impressed by that presentation. I would like to encourage everyone, if you haven't been to the Eco 360 facility, to do that. They will give you tours for groups, and it's really useful. It helps inform the separation requirements that we have, why you separate and what difference it makes, and it's a really useful thing, so I would encourage that. But I do have a question about the Sentinel stuff. One of the people who was praising the town for the communication showed me on their phone, and I couldn't tell on their phone whether it was an email message or a text, but it identified, had a phone number, and then it said Sentinel on it. And I know that we talked last time that there's going to be efforts made to make the phone call or the text messages not look like spammers. So can you address that?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Evans. You're correct. We did add some new standardized messaging to the body of the email as well as the text message. We've reached out to Sentinel. It's a New Brunswick-based company based in Bathurst. They are able to customize the email that people receive. They're also able to customize the phone number that people receive. At this point in time, they're not able to customize the text message. So, however, when you saw that text message come in, if you are signed up to that particular piece of Sentinel, we did add some standard messaging so you could at least see that there was some Town of Sackville branding on the message itself. So we've asked them to make the updated changes to the phone number and email. They're doing that this week, and they're also looking to make some further changes with the text message moving forward as part of their own platform. So we're very pleased with that.
Thank you. Other, Councillor Black?
At the presentation for the Lawrence Street Phase 2, I had asked if maybe an email list can be compiled for citizens around the area. Has that been done, or has anybody taken advantage of that? I just wondered, just as a follow-up.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Black. We haven't specifically, but I think it's been referenced several times today with the Sentinel. We tried something different for the first time where we targeted a specific group. So the power of that very function with Sentinel allows us now to send very particular messages to a small segment of our population, literally with the click of a mouse. So, but again, to reiterate what's been mentioned several times, Sentinel is a very powerful tool, and it can be used in a variety of ways, emergencies and non-emergencies. But we need people to sign up. So if people are signed up, it'll work brilliantly when we would look to get a message out to those people within the kind of the Lawrence Street area. So that's another example of how we could use it. I guess furthermore, Dwayne and I haven't had the ability to reach out to individual residents yet. We do, the next time we do need to get some messaging out. I guess we'll have to think about how we're going to do that, whether it will be with Sentinel, whether it will be with a notice drop, as we've done in the past, but certainly getting the message out to those people within the construction zone is certainly on our radar, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. Are there any other questions? Okay, that is the end of reports. We'll move on to new business. And the first new business is the liaison councillors for 2019. Been some, if the Prime Minister can change his cabinet, I guess we can too. Finance Administration will be Councillor Tower and myself. Tourism Business Development will be Councillor Tower and Councillor Michaud. Recreation Programs and Events, Councillor Finney and Councillor O'Neill. Public Property, Councillor Finney and Councillor Evans. Policy Bylaw, Councillor Black and Councillor Butcher. Public Safety, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Butcher. Personnel, Councillor Black and Councillor Evans. Corporate Affairs and Strategic Development, Councillor Michaud and myself. Under boards and committees, the Regional Service Commission is the Mayor and myself. The Sport Wall of Fame is Councillor Finney and Councillor Tower. The Waterfowl Park, Councillor Butcher and Councillor Evans. And the Sackville Art Wall, Councillor O'Neill. And yet to be filled is a position on the Library Committee. So those are the new councillor assignments for 2019. And second order of business, I'll call on Councillor Michaud to introduce this committee.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Aiken. On December 18th, the parish of Sackville Local Service District took the step in organizing themselves to have a voice, an organized voice. And it was great to see. I actually went and participated in that and watched it unfold, and that was democracy at its grassroots. So they have joined us this evening, or a majority of them have joined us this evening, and I'm going to call on the chair, Roger Gauchi, to get up and introduce himself and his other committee members who are here.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for allowing us to come here tonight. And we are the new Local Service District Advisory Committee for Sackville Parish. Roger Gauchi, Chairman. And I'd like to present Cheryl Ward, spokesperson, unofficially, and Jackie Johnson. We haven't given her an official title yet, but we will. And we've got quite a few things we're working on, and I imagine we'll be crossing paths and talking.
Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. That's it's good to see that area has representation to the province now. Okay, we'll go to question period. Now, the press first. Mr. Work. Oh, I'm sorry, Councillor Butcher.
Sorry. I just wanted to say this is great. Thanks, Cheryl. I watched that whole thing unfold on Facebook, which is, you know, the heartbeat of everything. So, but I love how you kept everything so positive and so focused on making sure that things happened for you there. And congratulations. I'm really looking forward to working with you guys. So, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Mr. Work.
I have a question about the train incident. I wasn't aware of that. It sounds that it was fairly serious. Which intersections were blocked during that period that I gather was somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes?
Chief Bowser?
It was my understanding, Mr. Wark, that all three exit points, entrance points going into our industrial park were closed off, as well as the 935-106 interchange was blocked as well.
How long was that?
Again, my understanding is 20 to 30 minute time frame. I'm not sure of the exact time.
Now, when you say the three entrances to the industrial park, I can only remember two.
Crescent, and Charles.
Oh, Charles. Okay, thank you. And the problem was I didn't understand the error aspect of it.
From speaking with CN, they've identified that the main engine air storage was depleted on their air braking system. So the train come to a complete stop, and they were working to get that air built back up within the system to get that train moving along again.
Thank you. I'm just wondering, the weather has been really cold, and how it's going with the Lawrence Street tamping down of the frost. How is that, just a kind of update on that project, how it's going?
Mr. Ackman?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, after discussions with the contractor, he worked, or they worked, all day Saturday and all day Sunday. That was, we put that out on social media. The frost went in well. They had indicated today they thought they might have to work one night, which is tonight, but I came by that way before a council meeting and noticed there were no lights there. So they may have enough frost in the ground right now to do what they need at this point in time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question about the investigation that was undertaken about a complaint that was lodged by Merlin Estabrooks about an altercation outside the council chamber, and I'm wondering what happened in that investigation, what the outcome was.
The outcome was the mayor put me in charge of that investigation. Mr. Hanrahan and I went through, interviewed a number of people, and then had a meeting with Mr. Estabrooks and Ms. Hicks to let them know the results of our investigation. And that's, since it's a personnel matter, that's about as far as I can take it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay. Councillor Tower, motion. Second, Councillor Finney. We're adjourned.